walked in on my daughter being mistreated at her daycare. I am a 22-year-old dad, and for the past few months, I've been leaving my 1-year-old daughter at this daycare while I juggle school and work. Honestly, life's been a mess. My girlfriend, who's 26, and I haven't exactly been in a great place either, so daycare has been a necessity, not a choice. Until recently, I thought it was fine. The staff always said she was doing great, how much they loved her, all that good stuff. I'd hear from other parents too, and they all seemed chill about the place. So even though I'd get that little nagging worry every parent gets, I figured she was safe. That is, until a few days ago when I went to pick her up early. When I walked in, I saw her sitting in the timeout corner, bawling her eyes out, screaming, the whole 9 yards. She looked so small and so scared, and it hit me like a punch to the gut. I signed her out as fast as I could, but while I was doing that, one of the caregivers turned to her and shushed her. Not a, "Hey sweetie, calm down" kind of shush. No, it was harsh, like she was telling her to shut up. Then, out of nowhere, another caregiver comes over, grabs my daughter like she's some sort of stuffed animal, and basically tosses her into the group of kids. I'm not exaggerating when I say she just dropped her there. My daughter isn't even old enough to talk properly yet, and here's this grown adult handling her like she's nothing. I was about to lose it, but before I could say anything, the director came over to explain. He said my daughter had been making a mess and not following instructions, so they put her in timeout. He tried to downplay the whole thing, saying it was her first time in timeout, she was just shocked, blah blah blah. I didn't even know what to say, so I mumbled some stupid apology for her behavior and got the hell out of there. That scene keeps replaying in my head. I haven't taken her back since, but I know I'll probably have to. The thought of leaving her there again makes me sick. Before this, I thought these people cared about her. Now, I can't trust them. And if I report them, who's to say they won't take it out on her in some way? But if I stay quiet, I'm letting this slide, and that's not okay either. The worst part is seeing how sad she looked that day. It broke me. She's just a baby. She doesn't deserve this. I feel like I failed her by leaving her there in the first place. I told my girlfriend about it, thinking she'd be just as mad or at least ready to back me up. Instead, she was like, "Yeah, that's not good," and moved on. It's like she doesn't even care that much. I don't know if it's because she's tired or stressed out too, but I'm drowning here. I'm the one balancing school, work, and everything else, and now it feels like this whole daycare mess is just on me. I don't know what to do. Do I report them? Do I find a new daycare and just eat the cost and the hassle? All I want is for my kid to be safe, but right now, I feel like I'm failing at everything. Comments. Jace Black 99. Am terrified of putting my kids in daycare because of mistreatment when my oldest was a baby. What we ended up doing was finding someone that could come watch them at our home and had cameras in the main living area and hallway. I could check in whenever, and it gave me peace of mind. We offered her the same rate we would pay for daycare in our area. And to socialize the kids, we had play dates once a week to let the kiddos play. Bring them to the park, ECT. Throw a 237-89202. OP. Before we chose to put her in a daycare, me and my GF just took turns watching her. When that wasn't possible, we asked our family if they could watch her. My mom doesn't want to, but my GF's family was able to watch often. However, they had time struggles too. We wanted a nanny or someone to watch our kid like you did. But even though my girlfriend is making good money, and once I'm done with school, I'll be able to get a good job as well, we just couldn't afford one. Even when we offered to give a rate better than the daycare, we just had a hard time finding somebody. Artistic Giraffe 866. This is not right. 1-year-olds can't really misbehave because they haven't listened to instructions properly. That is mismanagement by the adults. I wouldn't be happy with the situation you witnessed either. I would also be concerned about her mother's attitude. That is odd. Very odd. Maybe she wasn't ready for a child and is finding being a mother too time-consuming. Throw a 237-8922. OP. That's what I thought too. It's literally a 1-year-old. YTF do they think she's going to be able to listen to instructions like a kid that's 3 years older than her would be able to? Or that a timeout is going to help her improve? It won't, and they should know that considering it's their job to take care of kids. And I'm kind of confused from my GF's attitude towards this too. but our relationship between us and our daughter is complicated. 1. The day after my original post. After a long, restless night of going over everything in my head, I decided there was no way I could just sit around and let this fester. First thing this morning, I went straight to the daycare. I wasn't going to let what I saw be swept under the rug, and I sure as hell wasn't going to let them think I was just some clueless parent who wouldn't stand up for his kid. I needed answers, and I needed them now. When I walked in, the place had that same calm, cheerful vibe they always try to put on, but it just made my stomach turn. I asked to speak to the manager, and to their credit, they came out pretty quickly instead of brushing me off. I didn't waste time on pleasantries. I got straight to the point. I told them about what I saw. My daughter crying in the corner, the dismissive shushing from the staff member, and, most importantly, the way another caregiver roughly picked her up and dropped her like she wasn't even a person. I could see the manager getting more uncomfortable as I spoke, which honestly made me feel a little better. At least they weren't completely unfazed. When I finished, they said, "I understand your concerns," in that rehearsed customer service tone that didn't feel genuine at all. Then they admitted, almost like it hurt to say it, that one of their staff did not handle the situation appropriately. That was the word they used, inappropriate. Like, yeah, no kidding. Apparently, the caregiver who shushed my daughter and manhandled her lost their composure and acted out of frustration. The manager assured me that this wasn't representative of our usual care standards, and that the employee would be retrained. Retrained, as if a quick training session is going to fix someone's attitude toward kids. But what really got under my skin was how the manager kept pivoting back to my daughter's behavior. They kept saying she wasn't listening, she was making a mess, and that's why she ended up in timeout. I had to stop myself from snapping. She's 1. She doesn't even fully understand what instructions are yet. What did they expect from a toddler? For her to sit still with her hands folded like she's in a business meeting? I couldn't believe they were trying to spin it like my daughter was the problem. At that point, I asked if I could see the security footage from that day. I wanted to know if this was an isolated incident or if this kind of treatment was just part of their normal routine. The manager hesitated. They said they'd need time to review the footage and would follow up with me after they've gone through it. That didn't sit right with me. Why couldn't they just pull it up while I was there? They have cameras for a reason, right? The whole "we'll get back to you" line felt like a stalling tactic, like they needed time to figure out how to spin the story before I saw anything. I left feeling more uneasy than when I walked in. On the one hand, I guess I'm glad they at least acknowledged something went wrong and didn't outright deny it. But their response felt so weak, like they were more concerned about covering their own asses than actually addressing what happened. Now, I'm stuck trying to figure out what to do next. Part of me thinks I should just pull her out of there immediately and never look back. But realistically, it's not that simple. Finding another daycare isn't easy, and I can't just keep her at home with me. I've got school, work, and bills piling up. The idea of taking her back there makes my skin crawl, but I don't exactly have a lot of options right now. The worst part is how much this is messing with my head. I keep replaying what I saw, her tiny, tear-streaked face, the way they treated her like she was just another task to check off their list, and it makes me feel like the worst dad ever. I can't stop thinking, how could I let this happen? How did I not see this sooner? When I told my girlfriend about everything, I thought she'd be as furious as I was. Don't get me wrong, she said she was worried and agreed that what happened wasn't okay. But her reaction was so neutral, like, yeah, that's bad, but what can we do? I don't know if she's just overwhelmed or if she genuinely doesn't care as much as I thought she would, but it feels like the weight of this entire situation is on me. And to be honest, I'm already barely keeping it together with school, work, and everything else. I've been going back and forth on whether I should report this to someone higher up or even look into filing a formal complaint. But I keep worrying. What if they take it out on my daughter? What if speaking up just makes things worse? On the other hand, staying quiet feels just as wrong. If I don't say something, how many other kids might go through the same thing? How many parents will keep being fooled by the everything's fine act? For now, I'm waiting to hear back about the security footage. If they actually follow through and show it to me, maybe I'll get some clarity. But until then, I feel completely stuck. My daughter deserves better than this, and I'm doing my best, but right now, It feels like my best isn't enough. I'll update again if I hear anything or figure out what to do next. If anyone's been in a similar situation, I'd really appreciate some advice. I feel like I'm drowning here. Update 2, 3 days after my original post. It has been 3 days, and my head is still spinning. Every time I think about my daughter crying in that corner, I feel this knot in my chest that will not go away. I knew I needed to push the daycare for answers, so when they finally called me back, I braced myself for whatever excuse they were about to throw at me. Here is the deal. The manager called to give me their official response. They started with an apology, one of those overly polished ones that you can tell they have rehearsed. They said they reviewed the camera footage and agreed that what happened was, and I quote, inappropriate. I mean, thanks for confirming what I already knew, I guess. They admitted the 2 staff members involved lost their composure and did not handle things the way they should have. Apparently, those 2 employees have been temporarily suspended while the daycare conducts some sort of internal review. They also threw in a bunch of promises about how this is not representative of their standards and how they are committed to improving. They said they will be doing extra training sessions to ensure this does not happen again. Sounds great, right? Except none of it felt genuine. When I asked them to tell me exactly what they saw in the footage, the manager dodged the question. They kept it vague, saying things like, "We identified areas where the staff fell short," and "the actions you described were verified." I pressed for specifics. How exactly were the staff members disciplined? What changes are they actually making? But they kept giving me these surface-level answers that felt more like PR damage control than real accountability. Then I asked if I could see the footage myself. That was a hard no. They claimed it was a privacy issue, that showing the footage would violate other kids' confidentiality. I get the logic, but it still rubbed me the wrong way. If they are so confident in their transparency, why not show me exactly what happened? It felt like they were hiding behind policies to avoid having to show me the full picture. To top it all off, they offered me a discount on tuition as a gesture of goodwill. That was the moment I almost lost it. It felt like they were trying to pay me off, like they thought throwing a little money at the problem would make me forget everything. They said I should feel reassured knowing that my daughter would receive the highest level of care if I brought her back. But how am I supposed to trust that? I trusted them before, and look where that got me. The truth is, I have already started looking into other daycare options, but it is a lot harder than I expected. The good ones are expensive, way out of my budget, and the ones I can afford either have wait lists that are months long or reviews that make me just as nervous as I already am. I feel completely stuck. I hate the thought of sending her back to that daycare, but I do not have a lot of other options right now. Another thing I am struggling with is whether or not I should report them to the authorities. A lot of people in the comments have told me to go for it, and part of me knows I should. But I am scared. What if they figure out it was me? What if they take it out on my daughter? I cannot be there every second to protect her, and the idea of her being targeted because I spoke up keeps me up at night. At the same time, staying quiet feels wrong. What if this is not the first time something like this has happened? What if there are other kids being treated just as badly, or worse? What if other parents are walking in every day, hearing the same fake reassurances I heard, and have no idea what is really going on? I cannot stop thinking about that. But every option feels like a risk, and I do not know which one is the least damaging. When I talked to my girlfriend about it, I was hoping she would have some clarity, or at least be as upset as I am. She said the right things. She agrees it is unacceptable and says we need to figure it out. But her energy feels off. I do not know if it is because she is just as overwhelmed as I am or if she just does not care as much, but it feels like the entire weight of this situation is on me. Between school, work, and now this, I am barely holding it together, and I feel like I am carrying this alone. Right now, I am stuck in limbo. I am waiting to hear back about their internal review and whether they actually follow through on any of these promises. I am still researching other daycares, but nothing has clicked yet, and I am still trying to figure out if reporting them is worth the risk. I feel like I am failing my daughter, and it is eating me alive. All I want is for her to be safe and happy, but every decision I make feels like the wrong one. Do I take her out and risk ending up in another bad situation? Do I report them and hope it does not backfire? Or do I give them another chance even though every instinct is screaming at me not to? I will keep you all updated as I figure things out. For now, I am just trying to take it one step at a time. Day 3, 4 days after my original post. All right, here we go again. After a lot of sleepless nights and second-guessing myself, I finally decided to file an official report with the agency that oversees childcare centers in my area. Honestly, I was terrified to do it. The whole time I kept thinking, what if this backfires? What if they find out it was me? What if they retaliate somehow? But in the end, I knew I had to do it. Not just for my daughter, but for every kid in that place. I laid it all out in my report. I described exactly what I saw. My daughter being shushed in that cold, dismissive way, the way she was picked up like she was nothing and dropped with no care, and the daycare's vague and almost scripted response when I confronted them. I also included details about their refusal to let me see the camera footage and their overall lack of transparency. But here is where it gets even more complicated. Over the last couple of days, I started talking to other parents whose kids also go to the daycare. I wanted to know if anyone else had noticed anything off. It turns out, I am not the only one who felt like something was wrong. One mom told me her son came home with a bruise on his arm a few weeks ago. When she asked the staff about it, they shrugged it off and said he probably got hurt playing. Another parent mentioned that their daughter had started crying every morning before daycare, even though she used to love going. These stories might not seem huge on their own, but when you add them all up, they paint a pretty disturbing picture. The kicker? I found out at least one other parent had already reported the daycare. They did not tell me much about their complaint, but just knowing I was not alone made me feel like I was doing the right thing. If multiple parents are seeing red flags, then this is not just a bad day or a one-time mistake. This is a pattern, and it needs to be stopped. Since filing the report, I have been feeling this weird mix of relief and dread. On one hand, I am glad I took action. It feels good to know I stood up for my daughter and for the other kids who might be going through the same thing. But on the other hand, I cannot stop worrying about what happens next. What if the daycare somehow finds out I was one of the people who reported them? What if they retaliate? Even though I have pulled my daughter out for now, the thought of them targeting us in some way still freaks me out. Speaking of pulling her out, I made the decision to temporarily keep her out of daycare altogether. A close friend of mine has been helping out by watching her during the day while I figure out our next steps. It is not a perfect solution. My friend has their own life to manage, and I know it is not sustainable long term. But it is better than sending her back to a place I do not trust. At the same time, I am scrambling to find a new daycare, and let me tell you, it is a nightmare. The good ones are either way too expensive or have waiting lists that are months long. The ones I can afford have reviews that make me question if they are even any better than where we just came from. I feel like I am stuck between a rock and a hard place. What makes it harder is how busy I already am. Between school, work, and now this whole mess, I am running on fumes. Every day feels like I am just trying to survive, juggling a million things at once. But no matter how tired or stressed I get, I keep reminding myself that this is what I have to do. My daughter's safety comes first. But if there is one thing I know now, it is that I will not let this slide. My daughter deserves better, and so do the other kids at that daycare. Whatever it takes, I am going to make sure she is safe and happy, even if it means turning my life upside down for a while. I will keep you all updated if anything new happens, or if I hear back from the agency. For now, I am just trying to take things one step at a time. Update 4, 5 days after my original post.